All right, so greetings everyone and welcome to the keynote speak at Game City Kajani Game Lab. My name is Klaus Kärjänen and I will be giving you the speech around the topic, which is goal-oriented marketing and aligning your KPIs for clearer focus. That is a nice name for a speech. I need to admit that I did use ChatGPT for the name, but that still sounds good. But it still makes a lot of sense, the given topic that we're going to be talking today, since we're going to be talking about goals. We're going to be talking about KPIs, and if you don't know what is a KPI, that is okay as well. But we will be taking a look into that. And my aim for this given speech is to give you, let's say, a much more understandable meaning for KPIs. I think for many, if someone mentions the word KPI, it sounds some business jargon and no one knows what it's like, but you just need to use the name KPI because it sounds professional. But I'm going to be trying my best today, within the coming hour, to explain much more better what is a KPI and why you should be interested in looking at those. Very shortly about myself, in case there's some new people on board, and also I see this as a good opportunity to promote my own stuff. But my name is Klaus Kärjänen. As mentioned, I am the Chester at the Chester Craft Company. I've been in the game industry 15 plus years, and I'm a solo game developer, and these are new titles that I came up with. I'm also an artist and a philosopher. I'm a universe architect, and I'm a father of 3 boys. And why I wanted to mention the universe architect is because I'm kind of shifting my focus within the coming, let's say, weeks or months to working with my own, let's say, fantasy world, which is called Seeker, and I'm actually going to be focusing into that much more than I have done previous months. And I wanted to promote as well that I opened a Discord server today. Yay! So maybe you want to join that in case you are into Pokemon type of things like books and games and such. So be sure to check that link. There is a short link and also the full Discord link, but I would love to see you joining the Discord channel as well if you are some way into Pokemons, let's say that. Cool. But anyhow, that's my background. uh, Disclaimer for today's lecture. First of all, this will be a very practical look into the topic. And why I wanted to mention this at the beginning is because I'm kind of trying to shift these lectures more into the practical side of things. Because you can always talk some very awesome sounding business jargon, but in the end, everyone is like so amazed of your way of speaking some business jargon, and they are thinking that he must be very professional, but in the end no one understands anything what is happening. So because of that, I want to keep this very practical on a, let's say, on a low level descriptions in a way that you can actually grasp these. And by grasping, I mean that you can actually take these into, let's say, even your daily life that you when you work with games. And that's my aim. I want to be very practical. That's my thing. Or at least I try to. Let's see how it goes. Anyhow, let's talk about your goals. Not my goals, your goals. And all of us have some kind of a goals. You wouldn't be sitting in this given lecture if you wouldn't have a goal. You have some goal. Is it a release a game? Is it to become a professional game developer or get a job in the game industry or just have fun while making games? I don't know. Is that a goal? Maybe. But anyhow, all of us have some kind of a goals. And there must be a reason why you are working with games today and why you attended the game lab and what you're trying to achieve. So why do you do this? That's a very big question. I think it's very hard to answer as well, but also something that you should be thinking about. So why did you start making games in the first place and what you are trying to achieve? In best case, you have already discussed about this with your team, or maybe you've discussed about this by yourself and thinking in by yourself that what you are actually trying to achieve. But anyhow, this is the most common one. I'm here to make good games. And I think all of us maybe share that in common. We all want to make good games. But when looking at today's market, as in my previous keynote speeches and such, we can maybe already, let's say, agree together that the market is competitive AF. So it's very hard to make a game and actually make a living out of it. And that's just how it is. And yet again, if someone missed the previous keynotes and such, to put it in a nutshell, there were in Steam 19,000 games released on 2024, and back in the was it 2018, there were a couple of thousand games released on Steam. And the shift that has happened within, let's say, 5 to 10 years, you don't have to even go 10 years, let's say 5 years, it's been massive. Like the markets are so saturated in the games field, and there's so many game developers out there and so many games coming out each day that to get the enough visibility to get even decent amount of sales, or let's say to even get any sales in today's market, it's harder than it has ever been. And because of that, I'm here to make good games isn't enough. That's that's kind of what we all share in common and what you kind of expect to be doing there. But how do you actually do that? How do you plan to do it? And that's what we're going to be talking today, is that how we can determine those goals, and once we have determined those goals, how we can actually put those in practice, and how we can identify different kind of plan of actions that what we are going to be actually doing to achieve the stuff that we are trying to do. But still, this doesn't answer the question that why we are doing the games and why we are trying to do this. So maybe we try to split these into some kind of examples and such, and try to kind of understand what these plans could be. Because without any goals, you'll end up easily running after every shiny ball. You see the rise of an AI, and you are like, we're gonna make an AI game. Or there's the Roblox. We're gonna make Roblox games because that's a trend. Or I don't know, you name it. Something that you just hear that this is a big thing, and you're gonna be, whoa, well, maybe there's money in there. We're not gonna do that. The train has left the station already. If it's already a trend, there's you missed it, and there's kind of you have to see it up front what could be something that is becoming a trend if you are aiming to get into that, and that's basically impossible because no one has a crystal ball to actually see in the future, and if you do, please let me take a look into that as well. But I think we don't. But you don't know if you're doing the right things if you don't have any goals, and you end up just making game after game, and you have no clue what you're even doing, and you just most likely fail, and you don't even know why you failed, or even you happen to succeed, you don't even know why you succeeded and such. And on the bottom of the screen you can see the basic cycle of a project, how it easily goes as well. That you just leave your previous project to look into something much more shiny, much more good looking, and that's the next game, obviously. So you don't want to be that yellow guy, that one there. You don't want to be that. So about the examples, let's take a look into those. So why I wanted to brought up these examples here, because obviously your goals may be something totally different. You may have a lot of ideas what you're trying to achieve, which, or let's say most likely each of one has different thoughts or goals or ideas what we were gonna achieve with our game development. But let's look at some common examples just to understand what it could be, these goals. So I'm gonna give 3 common examples what people may be trying to achieve. The first one is the publisher focus. So many people in the game industry are trying to get a publisher deal for their game, and that's their aim, that's their focus, that's the kind of the holy grail that they're trying to achieve, is that they get agreement signed with a publisher for the game. That's one goal. Maybe you are building an investment and funding driven company and you're trying to get investments to your company or some, let's say, public funding from Business Finland or such. Maybe that's your aim. Maybe you're trying to build a big team and you need that investments to keep the projects and the company afloat. Or maybe you're self-publishing. Maybe your aim is that we don't need money, we don't need a publisher, we're going to do this ourselves and we want to do it ourselves because reasons X, Y, and Z and such. But we just want to publish this ourselves. Maybe that's your dream or goal or whatever we want to call it. So these three common examples will be the, let's say, big driver for today's rest of the slides and such. We are going to split these into more understandable things, what it actually requires to achieve these goals. What you need to be actually doing, like in that practical way, like I mentioned, to get a publisher deal, or what you need to do to get those investments or the funding, or what you need to do to get that self-publishing focus. But how we're going to wrap that up is that I'm going to also split it into the KPIs that if you're trying to, let's say, go for the self-publishing part, what kind of a KPIs you maybe should be looking at. But let's go forward. So publisher focus goes first. So in case you want to sign a publisher deal for your game, maybe it's the current game, maybe it's some upcoming game, or maybe you're just planning a game that you want to get a deal from a publisher. The publisher rarely come randomly or via luck, so you need to be actually doing something to get those publishers. First of all, let's break a myth if someone in the audience is thinking that publishers just contact people and say that we want to work as a publisher for your game. I think that is already a position that you should maybe think that do you need a publisher if someone starts asking you the deals, because you are most likely getting the visibility so much that that's why they're interested. So most likely the publishers won't be asking you anything. It's you who should be asking that could this game be interesting for you? So it's your job to contact them and keep them notified of your progress until you get a no answer, basically. So I'm gonna explain these like very, let's say, grassroots level. Don't get bored if these are things that you already know, because there's a reason for that. But just hold on tight. But yeah, it's your job to contact them and keep them notified of your progress. Your development should be planned in a way that you have something to show every month. And that's the reason, because these publishers, they get emails and phone calls and conference meetings and such. They get so many of those that they just forget that you exist. There's nothing personal in there. There's just so much of stuff on their table that they cannot simply remember everyone who is contacting them. And that's why you need to be contacting more. And that's just the name of the game. Like, especially if you're nobody and you're making your first game and no one knows about you, you should be making as much noise as possible towards the publishers. And to have something show every month, that doesn't only affect that you actually sent the email, it affects the development cycle, how you're making the game. Because that stuff doesn't just happen randomly that, hey, we have something to show, let's show that. It's about working your game in a planned way, that every month you have that something to show that you actually planned up front to be showed. That's just not something that happens randomly. You need to plan that. Your team needs to have clear focus areas: art, design, code, and business, and that's just what the publishers expect from you. If you don't have a clear focus areas in your team, it just asks, they need to ask so many questions that are you able to actually deliver this given game or what? You need to be showing them the plan and the team and your capacity that you're actually able to ship the game that you are providing to them. Game design and core audience needs to be clearly specified. And that's also a thing that you need to be doing. If you cannot explain who this game is for, how could the publisher understand that? It's just something that you need to understand yourself, and you need to be able to communicate that what is the core audience and how big is the audience and why this audience is interested in this given game and such. It's just not some random stuff you say about this game, that this game is good because there is a nice looking character in the game and the nice looking character has a gun. Just that obviously is not enough. You need to be able to describe also that why this game is interesting for their audience and how big that audience is, and in the end, how much money can we expect to be coming from this given game. And the most important part that is highlighted in red, that if you are aiming and your goal is to get a publisher, you should be planning this before you even do anything. Not a concept art, not a line of code, not anything. The game should be already designed in the first place to fit into portfolios of some given publishers. And that's not luck. You just make some random game and you happen to hit uh, into kind of making a game that fits into some given publisher's portfolio. It's something that you can plan ahead, and you can understand that our goal or my goal is to make a game that fits that I want a publisher deal for. So because of that, I want to start designing a game that actually fits into the portfolio of, let's say, Raw Fury or Developer or both, or something like that. And I'm going to be looking at their portfolio. I'm going to be looking at developers' portfolio. I'm going to be looking at Raw Fury's portfolio. And once looking into that, I start to realize and understand what kind of games they tend to publish. Because they don't just publish random games, they have some games that their audience likes, and that those are the games that they're trying to also seek to get the publisher deals signed with. So yeah, this is one goal example, just one of them. We're going to go through the two more as well. But just to give you some understanding that if you are setting some goals, that what you're trying to do, it affects basically everything in your development process. The earlier you understand what your goal is and what you're trying to achieve, it's much better to plan ahead and know what you're trying to do, but also get motivated that why we are doing these things. Because if the team or yourself don't know why you are doing the things, it's very hard to keep motivated for months or maybe even years to working with something because you don't even know what we're trying to achieve here. All right, so next up, the investment and funding focus. This is the kind of, is it the most traditional way? Maybe not the most traditional. Maybe the publisher deal is the most traditional way. Maybe the investment and funding focus is the kind of where the big companies come from, like Rovio and Supercells and you name it. Basically, all companies have gone through this round of focus, and it goes something like this. You should be building something that can be scaled big, because you are working with investors, and investors doesn't care about does the character have a red hat, or they don't care about is the genre this or genre that. They don't really care about that. What they care about is that you need to be able to show that you're building some business that actually has scalability uh, possibilities. Wow, scalability possibilities. Is that English? Maybe. But anyhow, it needs to be able to scale big, and you need to be able to show that this can be very big thing. And that's not only showing that we're going to release a game into a Steam platform where there is millions of users, and if all these millions of users buy our game, we are going to make millions. So that's that's not a good explanation how this can be scaled big. It needs to be kind of a strategy or something that hasn't done before. And you need to have a clear understanding of the market you are in. You are not just building games. And with the market, I mean that if your plan is to make Steam games, as an example, most likely you will not get investors that much of interested in your game. You need to be building something that can be scaling much more bigger and has a lot of opportunities in making it a very big hit in the global markets. So you need to understand the market you are in to be able to describe that why this thing is gonna be scaling big and such. Your uniqueness, yes, is easy to understand and well communicated. And what this means is that the thing that is unique in your company or your plan or in your products or in your current product or such, it needs to be so well communicated that you need only that, let's say, 30-second pitch to tell someone and they already realize that, oh my god, this is going to be big or this could be big and such. It needs to be that kind of a speech or pitch when you're making something unique. Because making something unique and being able to communicate that as well is a whole different thing. You may have the most awesome thing in your hand and the product that can be hit like thousands of millions or big numbers, yes. Uh, but if you're not able to communicate that, no one understands what you're even trying to do. You should be ready to travel. If your thing is that you're uh, into investment and funding focus and your goal is to get that investment and your goal is to get that funding, you are most likely traveling a lot. And that's just something that someone in your team needs to be able to do. And if there's no one in your team that wants to travel into places and having those pitches and attending conferences and such, you shouldn't be building investment or funding focus for your company. You're going to need to travel, and that's just a fact. You're more building the business rather than the product itself. I hate to say that, but that's how the things work in the investment and funding part, because you're looking for that very big of a funding for your projects and for your company and such, and it takes a lot of time to convince the investors and the funding instruments and such about that what you're trying to achieve here, that you are going to be using so much time into making these presentations or the next let's say game version just to show that given um, feature for some investor or such. Like, it's so much bound to the business side that what you need to be doing, that you will not be working with the product itself that much. That's how the business works. Like, obviously there are companies that have been able to make a product and they're able to get good numbers from that, and after that they get the investment. But if you are not able to make a product that makes good numbers, you need to be working more in the business side and being able to explain very clearly what you're trying to achieve rather than working with the product itself. So if you want to get the money in, let's say fast, you need to be building the business more than the product itself. Let's put it that way. You need to understand the public funding instruments in Finland. What this means is that still, God knows for how long, we still have in Finland a lot of public funding instruments. There are like AVEC, the DigiDemo, or the Business Finland, the Tempo money, or the R&D loan that you get from the Business Finland and such. You need to understand like how these funding instruments work. There's a lot of bureaucracy included in these funding instruments, but the good part about bureaucracy is that if you are able to hit the rule set of that bureaucracy, you are granted the money. Like, as an example for Business Finland, there's not much of arguing that do you get the funding or not if you just hit all the check boxes that you are basically doing the stuff in a way that it's within the rules of the Business Finland, you will get the funding. But the rules are obviously something that you need to understand, and if you're able to understand those rules, you will get the funding. Period. Like, there's no arguing in that. That's how bureaucracy works. So you need to understand how these instruments work. Obviously, I cannot open up the details here because that would take, let's say, 3 to 5 hours from us to go through the details here. But I would gladly help you with the Business Finland funding or such if you want to understand more about that. But still, you need to know how those things work if your plan is to build an investment and funding focus or goal for your company. You need to be applying for grants and competitions and validate and fine tune your idea and core message. That's that's taking a lot of hours or days or months from you to be doing that. Applying for every grant that you see and every competition you see, going into those pitching competitions, and you need to be listening a lot of feedback to your core message and you need to be adjusting that accordingly and such. It's a lot of work. And if you don't take these into account, that you're just randomly hoping that you get an investor, you won't. The market is so competitive that there's so many companies actually trying to get that funding that you won't get that randomly and by luck. So you need to be actually building your goal in a way that you're aiming to get that funding. All right, so let's look at self-publishing focus. What about this one? So you need to understand that you are alone. And that's a very bad way to say that, but that's unfortunately a very big fact. And what I mean with alone is that there's no one helping you to get the promotion. There's no one helping you to make the content, or there's no one helping you to get that big marketing push, or there's no one helping you to make that game or such. You are on your own. You need to be planning everything, every step in your development, in your marketing, in your funding, and everything. You need to be doing yourself. And that's a bumpy road. But still, obviously, there's a lot of freedom involved how you're going to be doing that. But at the same time, you need to be actually doing everything yourself. There's no one going to be helping you in that. Obviously, if you have money, people will help you a lot. But if you don't, you're doing everything yourself. You need to trust your own idea and plan for the future. And what this means is that, like mentioned at the beginning, that there are so many opportunities. There are so many people showing you the better route, or there's so many people saying that you are doing the wrong thing, or you should be doing that, or you shouldn't be doing that, or whatever it is. And there's so much people saying you that. And can make it very confusing for people to keep going forward towards their goal and actually trying to achieve the things that they want because there's so many people showing some alternative routes or another options that you should be doing and such. And if you don't have any plan in place or goal in place that what you're trying to do, it's very easy to ditch your idea and your so-called dream of making the things and going towards the things that people argue and say bad things about you. But if you have the goal in place and you actually believe in that goal and your strategy and such, it's much more easier to just let it go and go forward. We are gonna go with this plan until the end, and after the plan is executed, then we can look back and see that did we do well or not. But if you don't have a plan, it's very hard to follow anything. So because of that, if you're going for a self-publishing focus, or that's your goal, you need to have a plan in place. And marketing is everything. And like mentioned at the start, yet again, the markets are so competitive today, like underlined so competitive, that marketing is basically everything. It's over 50% of the work if you're going for the self-publishing focus. It's over 50%. I would say something like 60 to 70% of your time should be focused into the marketing side. Obviously, you can just make a good game with using 100% of your time to make the game and hope for the best. But as you may have seen in the markets already, that it's very common that these games just get buried because there's already 25 games came after yesterday, and it's very hard to get any visibility anymore on the storefront. So the game is dead within 24 hours or such. So marketing is everything. You need to be having the kind of a community and players in place before you launch the game. So because of that, you need to be doing marketing a lot during the process of making your self-publishing game. Your products needs to be easily understandable and have a clear but big enough niche. What that means is that your products needs to be easily understandable is that, yet again, because you are nobody to everyone. No one knows about you, no one trusts you. And when there's a new game on Steam, it's just another game on Steam. And no one knows about it. If you haven't done your marketing yet, people just see that maybe this is a ripoff, or maybe that's a fake game, or I don't know about this developer, and maybe this is just a scam or something like that, and people will not get interested in that. But if your product is easily understandable, people who hop into your store page, as an example, they can understand within 10 to 15 seconds or something like that what this the game is about. Maybe the game is not for them, but for the person who is supposed to be liking the game understands immediately that this has a nice hook. I like these kind of games. I want to play this. But if you're going to mystic approach and making something that is, let's say, hard to grasp or hard to understand, it's very hard to get anyone interested within that 10 to 15 seconds of the game because they just don't understand what this game is about. And it's much more easier to press the next game button rather than purchase the game and go try it. So because there's so many games available, so it doesn't really matter if they skip this one. You should prepare and plan your own going for multiple shipped games. Yes, still, it is possible that you make your first game and it's a hit game and everyone is happy and you have millions of dollars in your bank account and such. Yay. But the odds are that it won't happen. And because of that, if you're going for the self-publishing route, you should be planning your route in a way that you will be making 2 or 3 games at least before you can say that are we doing the right things or not, because you will be learning so much from your first games when you work with those and you publish those. You will be learning so much that how you can do this better, but how you can market this better and how can you design the games much better. Just it's enormous amount of things that you will be learning. So because of that, you need to plan ahead and think that this will be a game, our first game, but with that knowledge, we're gonna make much more better things in the next game, and how we're gonna do that. Once this game is complete, how we are able to work with the 2 or 3 games. That's the plan you should be focusing on, rather than putting every egg in the same basket and hoping that your first game will break the records of sales and such. It's just very unlikely. Still possible, very unlikely. So, kind of regarding that, plan your financials beforehand. How do you drive forward? If you are self-publishing, obviously you don't have that much of money, or that's a very common situation for people who do self-publishing games. Uh, you need to understand that how people are actually gonna be living. Where do they get the bread? How do they pay the rent? Things like that. And that's just a thing that should be a part of your plan, like how this is gonna go with our team. Are we gonna doing outsourcing? If yes, how much of outsourcing we need to do to get this keep this afloat? Though I highly suggest that you don't do outsourcing. That's a bad way. But still, if that's your cup of tea, you need to know that how much you're gonna be doing that. How much money do we need to get the X, Y, and Z things and such? Or maybe there's some alternative roads. Maybe the team is working in some different company, doing some other job to get their living, but they still have spare time for 5 hours a day, or I don't know, just throwing random numbers here. But anyhow, you need to actually plan this. This just doesn't happen via luck, that you just start making games and you just release 5 games in the next 5 years and everyone is happy. It won't happen. You need a plan how you're going to be doing that. And your time is very limited. So pick your fights carefully. it's very easy to think about that, well, we're going to be making a game, and at some point we're going to be contacting publishers about their game, and hey, at some point we're going to be making the investment rounds and start gathering money from investors and such. And hey, at some point we're gonna starting a YouTube channel and we're gonna doing YouTube videos. And by the way, I like Instagram, so let's do Instagram content and such. And wow, you just find yourself like working 24 hours a day and you have so much of a stuff on your plate. So pick your fights carefully. Where do you want to go and why you're doing this, what you're trying to achieve, and is it something actually valuable that you want to spend your time on? Because yeah, time is very limited for especially people who work in the self-publishing focus because they don't have the money in the first place. But anyhow, your time is limited. Pick your thoughts carefully. So with this in mind, you should have a focus. If you don't have a focus, you will be just doing, like mentioned, random shit go kind of strategy, and still that is not very good in most of the cases. Obviously, yet again, there are stories where this random shit go has worked, and maybe you want to try that as well. But if you are trying to actually build a business and you're actually trying to build something that you can actually uh, believe yourself that this is a good thing and I want to do this and such, you need a focus that what you are trying to achieve. So yeah, your time is limited. You should follow the plan as good as you can during the project. And if you don't have a plan with your team yet, you should most definitely get one. And that's actually going to be the so-called quest or assignment today that is very highly leaning towards that topic. But anyhow, you should have a plan and you should be focusing into that for the rest of the project. Yes, you will be having a lot of ideas that what we should be doing differently or how this is much more better to do this or do that. And instead of doing that, we should be doing this and such. There's going to be so much of ideas for that. But because of that, we need a plan that we can follow until the end in the given project. And once the project is complete, then we can look to the left and right and think that what we should be doing next and how what we can learn from the things that we just previously did. If you change your plan like every week or every month or every quarter or such, you will be just running in circles and it's very hard to get anything done. So by having a single focus, it's easier to make a plan to thrive to the right, quote unquote, right direction, because we don't know is that a right direction, rather than trying to keep all the possibilities afloat. So you need to be closing doors to keep yourself focused during the project. And that's my, let's say, one of the most important advices that I want to give you is that you need to be closing doors to keep yourself focused. Because there's so many opportunities yet again that you can go towards through, and you can just lose the sight that what we were doing and why we were doing this in the first place and such. So your team needs to have that single focus in place that what you are trying to achieve. And those three examples I gave, like the publisher driven or the investor driven or the self-publishing part and such, are good ways, like good, let's say, common ways or common examples in what you're trying to achieve. But if you nail one of those into your plan and strategy, it's much more easier to direct your everyday work into going to that direction rather than being divided in different ways that what we should be or maybe should be doing and such. So close doors to keep yourself focused during the project. Learn from your mistakes and make changes for your next project rather than going for endless change loop within your current project. I've been there. This may be a very personal pointer in the list, but you should be making a plan and following it until the end, because if you don't, you will be going into that endless change loop, or it's very likely that you go into that endless change loop and you just find yourself working with the same game for 4 years, and maybe it will be a good game, but maybe your also plan is to make, let's say, money out of this, and making a single game for 4 years as an example is a very risky thing in my opinion. And now someone is thinking that, but Stardew value was made in 8 years or something like that. Yeah, still, that's one way to do it. But we are talking more about odds here rather than uh, random nice stories. You're not supposed to be perfect, but at least you should know what you are trying to do. So after the project, when the project is done, is shipped and released, and someone comes up to you and asks that what you tried to do, what you tried to achieve, you should have an answer for that. And the answer is that we wanted to release a game. What you trying to achieve that? Was it like that you wanted to get enough sales to make a next game, or was your plan to make it as a hobby, or why did you make the game in the first place? If you're trying to make a living out of it, as an example, you need to have some kind of a plan or even some idea how you are going to be achieving that. All right, so once you determined your focus, hopefully with your team, hopefully you have discussed with your team and you are on the same line that we want to seek for a publisher, as an example. Or we want to have a big team and we need an investment round for that, and we're going to be trying to gather 1 million euros from investments or such, or whatever is your goal. I don't know, just yet again throwing random stuff here. But once you've done that, that's the first thing you should be doing. You can start aligning the KPIs. And here we go to the actual topic. No, kidding. I'm trying to aim this around hours, so there's around 13 minutes left, but this may go a little over, but still. Uh, but yeah, we can start aligning the KPIs at this point, because now we understand what we are trying to achieve. But if you don't know what you're trying to achieve, it's very hard to start aligning any KPIs and even know that what a KPI is and such. But let's first take a look what is an KPI for people who don't know what it is and such. But also what I try to do here is open your maybe eyes, open your eyes in a way that you maybe see the word KPI in a different, let's say, meaning after this. That's at least my aim. Let's see how it goes. So first of all, KPI is key performance indicator, if you didn't know that. So here's some easy to understand KPIs, like page views or units sold or reach or cost per click or cost per install. Those are easy to understand KPIs. But also those KPIs are something that, let's say, only companies use that already have a business. They already have the money, they already have some investments in, and they are kind of trying to build and optimize the business. These are the KPIs that those kind of companies may be looking. But what about the company who don't have a business yet? What about the company who is trying to even understand what we are supposed to be doing and such? What is the common situation for many startups out there? What kind of KPIs they should be looking? They are most likely not looking cost per install numbers and such, because they don't even have a money to run any ads and such. So those most likely are not the KPIs we're looking at. So not too easy, not so easy to understand KPIs is what you need to do first to achieve the X. And that may sound confusing, bear with me, but what you need to do first to achieve the X. So before we can use the KPI as an example, the cost per install, we obviously need money. So what we need to do first to be able to go into looking the cost per install. And you can already use the KPIs in this situation. And if this is starting to sound too complicated for you already, please bear with me, it will open up for you. But what we see here is that we need to understand what we are trying to achieve. And when we understand that what we are trying to achieve, then we can start aligning the KPIs in a way that what we need to do step by step to go towards the goal that we are trying to achieve. So you can and you should determine your own KPIs first before trying to reach the most common ones. These KPIs can be just your own, totally your own, just some random things, but some numbers and metrics you're trying to improve because you know that if we improve this given number, it will allow us to unlock the next step, as an example. The KPIs should be bound to your focus, what you're trying to achieve. As an example, if you're going for the publisher route and you're trying to get the publisher, as an example, the KPIs at this point are everything related to the getting that publisher. But what you need to do to get that publisher, we're going to actually be taking a look at those KPIs in a moment. But also remember that the performance in the word key performance indicator is determined by you. So what is performance for your team? It highly depends on your focus, it highly depends on your goals, it highly depends on your time of effort and such. So your performance is determined by you. Let's look at some KPI examples. So for the publisher focus KPI example number 1, let's go first what we are trying to achieve here. We want the publisher to be interested in our game. Before we can expect the publisher to be interested in our game, we need to contact them. Before we can contact them, we need a big list of potential publishers. Before we can determine the potential publishers, we need a game idea that fits to their portfolio. So what kind of KPIs could be fitting here? Amount of publishers validated. So how many publishers have you actually found that could be fitting in your portfolio? That your game could be fitting into their portfolio. What is the number for that actually? Or have you just used 10 minutes of Googling and checked a couple of publishers and sent an email? Or did you actually do the work and you have tons of publishers on your list that you have validated that these could be a good fit to our game? Amount of emails gathered. Like, do you actually have the emails in your hand that you can contact the publishers? Amount of live pitch presentations. How many did you have already? 1, 2, 0? Anyhow, if you have this KPI in place, you already know that we should be going into these places that we can actually get these live pitch presentations because it's a big part of getting a publisher. Amount of emails sent per month, as an example. So have we actually contacted any publishers? And if we have, how many? And the amount of responses that we have get so far. No interest, or demand. So with these KPIs, an example, which may look kind of silly or funny in a way that they are very simple and such, but those are still the numbers that people forget to track. They're just thinking that we want a publisher and they still work with the game and don't reach out to anyone and just randomly send some email to some one single publisher and such, and then they get sad because they didn't reply. So you need the KPIs in place that you're actually doing this on a daily basis or a monthly basis or whatever is your goal. And then you can track these numbers that have you actually done anything to get the publisher deal or not. So KPI example number 2, investment and funding focus. If we want the investors to be interested in our company, but before the investors can be interested in our company, we need a clear idea and message. But before we can have a clear idea and message, we need to test different approaches. Because no one designs perfect stuff on a cave. They need feedback. To test different approaches, we need feedback. To get feedback, we need to attend to conferences, events, and competitions and such. Alright, so that's the setting. What could be the KPIs? Amount of events or similar attended by the team or someone in the team. Amount of emails sent to potential VCs or angels, as an example. Amount of grants applied. Or maybe amount of written feedback received from the pitch decks or the presentations and such. And yet again, if you don't track these and you're still thinking that we want an investment someday, we want money to our company, we want angel investors and we want venture capitals to be investing our company and such. But if you are not actually tracking your actions that you are actually doing these, it will most likely not happen. So because of that, if you're tracking these and these are your KPIs at the beginning, you're most likely uh, doing the right things and trying to get the invest in your company, which is your focus, or if it is. So KPI example number 3, self-publishing focus. You want wishlist for your game on Steam. Before you can get wishlist, you need traffic for the store page. Before you can get traffic, you need to do promotion. And to do promotion, you need to release content on chosen channels. To have content, you need to create those during the development. And that's the setting, yet again. But it's all started with the idea that we just want wish lists. But what are the actual actions that you're doing that you will get those wish lists? So what could be the KPIs be? As an example, amount of, let's say YouTube, videos published. How many videos have you actually published so far? Amount of views in total, or yet again, as an example on YouTube. How many are there, like for real? 10, 100, 10,000? Or how many? You should be tracking that. And you want that to be increased along the way. Amount of traffic on the store page through YouTube, which you can all see on the Steam analytics if you get traffic through YouTube. And you should be tracking that. If the number is upwards, like every time you publish a new video, there's new people coming to your store page through YouTube, you know that you are doing the right thing. And you should be just continue and do that more because you see that number increasing, which is your KPI. Amount of wishlists per month. Maybe, let's say, last month you released 5 YouTube videos and you got traffic from YouTube, maybe, let's say, like, I don't know, 100 people through YouTube, and you got 5 wish lists. So last month we got 5 wish lists with these 5 YouTube videos. That's not a very good number. So maybe we need to change our approach how we make these wish lists. The YouTube videos as an example. But if you are not tracking these and you have no kind of a vision what's happening with your actions, it's very hard to let go. It's very hard to keep on going on things that don't work and such. So you need to have those KPIs in place that you realize that when you are doing the right thing, but also when you're doing the wrong thing. So yeah, the examples may sound silly or too simple, but that's the beauty of it. By choosing the most valuable metrics, it's much easier to plan your actions and do the right things, or at least know when you're doing the wrong things. And every action you take and every move you make should be directed to increasing those chosen metrics. Minimize the unnecessary work to save time. So this is not just some, let's say, business thing that you should be very effective in your work and such. It's kind of quite the opposite. That we are saving time from everyone on the team if we know what we are doing. We will be only spending time on things that are actually in value rather than on random things, and we hope for the best. So are you doing the right things? You don't know until you tested them and reached your goals. All right, so there's a lot of information there, but let's take a look at the goals before we start wrapping this up. So we need to be setting realistic goals. And what this means is that these goals that you set can be daily, weekly, monthly, or per year, whatever is your cup of tea. How much of a time you want to be spending on, or let's say how much you want, or how much you can spend time on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So You need to be doing that, like how we're gonna set these goals. And yet again, these goals are not supposed to be there to push you. Those goals are there that we just know that how much of a work we are doing currently, and when we get those numbers, maybe we understand that we are using so much of our time and effort for the thing X, and it's not bringing that much of a fruit back. So we maybe want to ditch that operation. So goals are not supposed to be stuff that make you feel bad and push yourself. It's about knowing what you're supposed to be doing, why, and for how long. So as an example, if the goal is that this month we want to release 5 YouTube videos, and then we're gonna make 5 YouTube videos, and now it's what 9th of this month, so we have plenty of time to make 4 more YouTube videos as an example. But you need to have that goal in place, what you're trying to achieve. Goals are not only to measure success, it's about measuring how much is enough or maybe too much. So that's why you need goals. You can basically see both. Goals can reveal the following as an example. We reached our goal of getting 1000 views on YouTube and we got 50 wishlists. Let's continue making the videos, if that number is good for you, as an example. But your goal was, or their goal, I don't know who these guys are, but anyhow, their goal was to get 1000 views on YouTube. And they did it. Now they have 1000 views on YouTube videos in total. And they can look from the analytics. It brought us 50 wishlists. So now we can do the math. If we can get, let's say, 100,000 views on YouTube or 5,000 views on YouTube, we know approximately how many wishlists we will be getting. Until that moment, they had no clue. They were just doing random things, and now they understand that 1,000 views equals approximately 50 wishlists. And second one, we've attended and reached our goal of attending 3 conferences on Q1 and already have 2 active publisher negotiations ongoing. So let's keep attending the conferences. And yet again, if they don't have the goal in place that they wanted to attend 3 conferences on the first quarter, as an example, they don't even know that are they doing the right thing. But they now have that. They understand that if they attend 3 conferences, they will get those active publisher negotiations. So it's much more easier to attend these in the future as well, because you know the effects. And the third one, we reached our goal and gathered 20 written feedback on our pitch deck and updated in. And now our message is much clearer for everyone. Let's keep gathering that feedback. So yet again, they actually had the goal. They asked people to give them written feedback. They discussed with people. They got that written feedback. And now they understand themselves that with this feedback, we are making much more better communication with everyone that what we are trying to do here. But if they wouldn't have that goal in place of getting those written feedbacks, it's very hard to ask anyone that can we get that written feedback if you don't even know that that's our goal. All right, so now imagine if every team member has their own set realistic goals which drive the chosen KPIs forward. Like everyone in the team would have these. What could happen? Like there's a team of 5 people and everyone has their own goals or a set of actions that they're trying to drive these KPIs forward. And you actually have a plan for that. I would dare to call that a business. And I think a lot of other people as well, be it the investors or the publisher or maybe even the person who wishlists your game, maybe they see that as well. These guys are doing good. So now we will be start wrapping up, and I will be now giving you the first assignment or the quest, as it seems, which hopefully all of you take into account. And no, this quest is not for you to just keep you busy with something random stuff. It's just something that hopefully makes you think that why we're doing this in the first place and how we can kind of go towards our dream of making these games and such. So determine the focus for your current project, whatever it is, but you need to have a focus in place. Discuss with your team what you're trying to achieve. Is that a clear enough motive for everyone in your team? Have that discussion. Just try it. Try it and see what happens. Ask that question from your team. Instead of setting your focus too low, you don't lose that much of aiming higher. As an example, we just do this for fun versus let's try if we can get the publisher interested in our game. There's not much of a things that kind of changes. It's about sending those emails and gathering those emails and maybe attending those couple of conferences and such. But already, if that's your cup of tea that you want that publisher deal signed, maybe implement that in your plan for the coming months. How we can actually try that. It's not about that you need to be doing that. It's something that you can try and you can learn from. Your focus is not your identity. It's the plan for the single project. Just remember that. Whatever you decide to do with the single project, it doesn't affect the upcoming projects. You can do whatever you like with the next one. But whatever you do with this given project, make a plan for it and stick to it. Whatever is your decision, it should last until the end of project. So close the doors to stay focused yet again. You're not running after every shiny ball that you see or hear about. You are focused, you're looking at your strategy, you're looking at your plan, and you're following it until the end. And once that end comes, then you can start opening the doors again and thinking that what have we learned and what kind of doors we should keep open or not. But you saved an enormous amount of time by closing doors during your project. So use example focus areas or create your own. These are the example focus areas as mentioned in this presentation, the publisher or the investor or the self-publish. You can go with those or maybe make a focus of your own, whatever is your cup of tea. But at least determine your focus. That's your first quest. And related to this quest, there's one more. We are going to set the first KPI for your team and plan of action to improve it. And this is only one single KPI, so you will not get overwhelmed with work. Or highly depends what's your KPI, but anyhow, we're going to be setting only one KPI for your team to go forward. And what does this mean? Depending on your selection of focus, determine together with the team one KPI. You can, if you like, determine multiple KPIs, but at least one. Try that. Trust me, try that and see what happens. That KPI needs to be very clear and something you can actually increase with your current time and knowledge. Whatever it is, it can be very small something or very big thing or just some thing that you use 1 hour each week or whatever is your time that you can use. But determine a KPI, some number you're trying to increase, and make a plan how you're trying to increase that given number. So make a plan of action for the next 2 months, how you'll increase the KPI, and make it as concrete as possible. As an example, we publish one YouTube video each week. So maybe your KPI is that how many views do we get to our YouTube, if that would be your thing that you would be publishing YouTube video each week. This quest should help you determine the most valuable actions for your current situation, but also reveal the concrete steps you need to take to go towards your desired direction. It's a very simple rehearsal, and you can make it as a very simple rehearsal, but obviously you can go overboard with this and plan your whole strategy all at once. But if you're not so much into the business side and thinking about KPIs and such, Just try that one KPI and try to determine the focus with your team. That's your quest for the next 2 months. So let's wrap up. Okay, so focus areas, the examples for that: publisher focus, investment and funding focus, and the self-publishing focus. And the KPIs help to stay on track. Just a friendly reminder, the KPIs should be bound to your focus. What are you trying to achieve? By choosing your most valuable metrics, it's much easier to plan your actions and do the right things. That's why we do that. And every action you take, every move you make should be directed to increasing those chosen metrics. And this is not to make you super performance worker, it's about minimizing the unnecessary work to save your own time. And your first marketing quest, discuss with your team what are you trying to achieve. Is that clear enough motive for everyone? And depending on your selection of focus, determine together with the team that one KPI. And if you like, you can set multiple KPIs, but try that one. Just for the sake of testing, try that one. And make a plan of action for the next 2 months, how you'll be increasing that given KPI. Whatever the KPI is, make a plan of action, how you're going to be doing that. And that's a wrap. 12 minutes past the time. So for the recording, I'm going to say thank you very much for listening and cheers and thank you and bye-bye. But for the rest, let's have those questions up.